Hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. Maybe you have an unhealthy relationship with a substance. Maybe it's a behavior. Now, this hypnosis session was specifically working with someone that had an unhealthy relationship with cocaine and cigarettes. They knew that it was costing them financially, costing their health, costing their opportunities, costing them emotionally in terms of shame and guilt and frustration. But it was also giving them something. And that might be a sense of energy boost, or it might a sense of connection or a sense of escapism. It was doing something for them, but at a huge cost. And what was interesting is this particular client had recalled a moment where they ended a relationship with their ex that was giving them something, but it was taking a lot more. And they reached a point where they just said, I'm done. And they were able to permanently walk away from that relationship, even though it was giving them some value, but taking a lot more. This hypnosis session uses a romantic relationship as an analogy with a relationship with a substance and frames it as an abusive, deceptive, gaslighting kind of relationship where the relationship promises all of these wonderful things, but actually takes a lot more. And it uses narcissistic language like gaslighting. It uses an element called the Stockholm syndrome, which you may have heard in situations where the hostages start justifying and defending their captors. And a lot of people have experienced something like this because of the cognitive biases that take place. When you're doing something fundamentally destructive, you start justifying it in different ways. It's a form of cognitive dissonance where you say, yeah, but it's not that bad, or it's not causing me that much problem. And that delusion keeps people trapped in these unhealthy patterns, these unhealthy relationships. Imagine how you would feel if you were in a relationship and that you discovered that your partner was secretly poisoning you. Not by big amounts, but bits of something poisonous or toxic, maybe putting bleach and things like that in your drinks or your food. If you figured that out, you would have an immediate emotive reaction to probably, get very angry with your partner, but certainly leave that relationship. And a lot of substance abuse is like that. There is this element of ignoring the consequences, the health consequences, the destructive consequences, and so disassociating from that and associating into the pleasure or the good things. And I want you to think of who a person would be that you consider very attractive and desirable, but would be very toxic, deceitful. And you could imagine that if you were in a relationship like that, because they are very desirable, you might overlook all of their obvious flaws because it's giving you something that you value. And a lot of people have that kind of relationship with some kind of a substance or behavior. This is designed to use an analogy of disassociation, looking at your life like a case file to actually see it for what it really is. Because if these kind of things were happening to someone that you care about or you love, you would probably try and assist or intervene for them to see what's really going on. It's more difficult to do that when it's within your own life. So if you have some kind of unhealthy relationship with something, maybe you're watching too much social media, maybe you're gambling too much, maybe it is a substance or overeating or sugary foods. Even though this was created for a client where their thing was cocaine and cigarettes, it might be something different for you. So just think of it in terms of that. How could that be an unhealthy relationship? It was created for an individual. Not all of the suggestions are going to be suitable for you. So if you do like the idea of having a bespoke session, me working directly with you, there will be a link not only in the description, but also on my website, which is adamcox.co.uk, where you could book a free consultation call and we can explore working together. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that slow, long, relaxing breath, and as you exhale, feel that wonderful feeling of release, as if any tension, stress, and worries are slowly but surely leaving your body in your outward breath. Breathing in relaxation and exhaling tension. Breathing in worthiness and exhaling shame. Breathing in certainty and exhaling doubt. I want you to feel that there is a profound difference between knowing what to do and feeling committed to doing what is best for you. There's one thing to say, "I'm done," and another to be done. And just imagine priming those neural pathways that know the difference from knowing what to being someone that aligns with what serves you. The deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you breathe. So much so that each breath takes you deeper and deeper relaxed now. That's it. Give permission to allow your nervous system to settle, not into sleep, but into clarity. Clarity, not drowsiness, will set you free. And you've had moments of clarity in your past that enable decisions linked to feelings of certainty that changed the trajectory of your life. So breathe in that clarity and exhale any confusion, because this is not about escaping anything. What if it's about seeing something accurately and clearly? Seeing something for what it really is, not what it pretends to be. Sometimes people have had an experience of observing their own life in the same way that perhaps they would a friend or a family member. As you breathe in and breathe out, maybe you can notice how easy it is to solve the problems of other people, and how much more difficult it is when those same problems are our own. So in a moment, I'm going to invite you the step out of the role of your current self and into a different role altogether. No longer as the person inside the experience with all of those words, connotations, meanings. Words like user, addict, right, wrong. Detach from that version of you experiencing and imagine that you're the one reviewing it. Reviewing your own life like a stranger would. I want you to imagine now you're seated at a desk, feeling calm, neutral, and grounded. And maybe it's a big wooden desk, perhaps made of mahogany or something else. And in front of you is a file, a document. But it's not a judgment. It's not an accusation. Consider it a case review. And the name on the file is yours. But you're reviewing it in the same way you would if it was a file about someone else. Consider this forensic distancing. You get to review a relationship between you and something else. And as you open the file, imagine seeing a timeline. When it started, patterns of use and no use, moments of blowouts and moments of feeling you don't want it, you don't need it, but observing it like a file. Observe promises, and then those promises followed by consequences. This is a file not about you, but about a relationship that you have, not with a person, but with a substance, and maybe more than one. Because this is a relationship under review. And even though it's not with a person, it sometimes behaves exactly like one. Because for a while you've been in a relationship with something charismatic, persuasive, knows how to push your buttons, knows exactly what to say. And maybe this is a relationship that represents cocaine or cigarettes. And this is an attractive partner, stylish, confident, seductive. And as you review the evidence, you notice something unsettling. That every time this partner promises relief, the outcome is depletion. Moments of high energy followed by energy down, health eroded, sleep disrupted, anxiety increased. And yet the partner always refuses any responsibility. It's almost like you're the problem. It's never them. You needed this. I helped you cope. This time doesn't count. But now notice something important. As the voice says something like, This will give you energy, clarity. This will wake you up. The body tells a different story. Tension, fatigue, acceleration followed by a crash. And maybe that voice says, you're in control. And so the pattern repeats, predictably. False promises with a similar aftermath. And from this position of observing the relationship, not being in it, you see it clearly. This partner lies in real time, not loudly, but quietly and convincingly. Isn't that how gaslighting works? Telling you what you want to hear, making up facts and information to fit a narrative that's never real. And as you continue reviewing, you realize something else. Secret, sneaky poisoning. Not dramatic poisoning. Not the kind of poisoning in movies where one drink of something suddenly kills someone instantly. Not instant collapse. I want you to imagine observing a different form of small, regular poisoning, almost like microdosing harm. Small enough to deny and slow enough to rationalize. Like someone who smiles while they slip poison into your drink. Just enough that you don't notice at first. Until weeks turn into months, and months into years. But observe how that cost accumulates. Health deteriorates. Self-trust eroded. Dignity diluted. Shame increased. As you continue observing the file, thinking of yourself like another person in a relationship with something abusive, narcissistic, toxic. As you continue, you discover the most disturbing part of the file. You've started to defend your abuser. You make excuses for this destructive relationship. How the harm isn't quite so bad. Selective memory of the highs and waving off those lows, that shame, that feeling of fatigue, anxiety, maybe even paranoia. And what if from here it's obvious? This is not desire. This is Stockholm syndrome. You've bonded into this relationship through intermittent relief and harm, through fear and reward, through confusion. And notice the difference now as you observe yourself like you're someone else. Distance brings clarity. You've been too close to this, and that brought blindness. And then there's a moment in the file where everything changes. Imagine a sentence or a phrase, a simple comparison. If this was your child, a good friend, If this was happening to someone you love, would you intervene immediately? Feel that reaction. Feel it deep inside, not intellectually, emotionally. Because the moment that you wouldn't allow this to continue with someone you care about, the illusion collapses. Like a house of cards falling down. Logically, emotionally, intellectually, it all collapses into a realization. The relationship fails the most basic test. And I want you to feel as you observe, seeing yourself now in this toxic relationship, this abusive relationship full of lies, deceit, deception and control, grooming and punishing. Notice what happens next as you intervene as you would for someone you care about, because you do care about you, and not with anger. Just a quiet, grounded certainty. Imagine saying, when thinking about this relationship, I see you. I know what you are. I refuse to continue. I'm done. Attraction is never enough to return to something toxic. If you knew for certain your favorite food was laced with poison, it looking desirable and appetizing is not enough. Once deception is seen clearly, it loses all of its leverage, persuasiveness, and influence. And when you feel that you are indeed done, that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, you see it for what it really is: an abusive, deceitful, toxic relationship that takes more than it gives. When emotionally you feel done, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Recall the time that you also felt this way. Sometimes there can be a lag time, a delay between the decision and when reality catches up. But in this moment, you're done. Everything else is just reality catching up with this decision. So allow yourself to see yourself forwards in time, maybe weeks or months from now. See this person who is done and see who this person has become. Maybe clearer, more grounded, self-respecting. And then imagine that the idea of returning to that old relationship, notice how it feels now. No longer tempting or exciting, beneath you, irrelevant, perhaps even embarrassing. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to go back to someone that abused you and calling it love? That identity no longer fits. Allow a new truth to settle, not as effort, but as alignment. You don't need to fight a toxic relationship You just outgrow it. You don't crave poison once you recognize the taste. This has been a vicious wolf hiding in sheep's clothing, but you see it now. And the part of you that protects life, health, and dignity is now back in charge. No longer to make excuses for this abusive relationship. And I want you to see yourself in that future. If any cravings, any physical sensations come up, that version of you will just assume that you are thirsty or that your body is craving nutrition, not a substance, but something that gives you life, vitality. When someone's been abused for years, what they need is healing. And I want you to feel that water and nutrients heal. Perhaps you could imagine yourself in the kind of situation that you would have an urge, an impulse, a craving. And just imagine that temptation to return to that toxic relationship now creates a desire to drink a glass of water, to have some fruits and vegetables or a salad, to do something for you rather than falling into that trap of inviting even more abuse. When your unconscious accepts that you've outgrown that toxic, abusive relationship, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And don't be surprised if you have thoughts, ideas, even dreams about what life is like now that you're done with this relationship. It doesn't serve you anymore. I want you to imagine very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. And you will awaken as someone that has seen something that cannot be unseen. Someone that doesn't drink from poisoned wells anymore. Someone that no longer defends their captor. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken the done version of you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.